Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Kuf Lamed Amud Aleph. The new parak, the 19th parak, discusses making a bris milah on Shabbos. The last words of the last Mishnah in the last parak stated, "V'kol tzarchei milah oisin b'Shabbos." Now our Mishnah discusses what does that come to include. Says the Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer Oimer, Im lo hevik kli me'erev Shabbos mevio b'Shabbos megula. If a person does not have a knife to do the bris milah with, a milah knife present, then he may bring it through the Reshus Harabim, even though that will be then making an Isser of Hoitzo on Shabbos. But Rabbi Eliezer is the opinion that not only can a bris milah be done on the 8th day, Bismana, on Shabbos, but it's also permitted to do that which surrounds the bris milah, what's necessary, what's called the machshirim shel mitzvahs milah. And he states over here that a person, when he then is going to bring the milah knife through the Reshus Harabim, he should do so megula. The Gemara will explain why. But if it's a shas of sakana, where the goyim are being goyzer not to make bris milah, then a person shall then put the milah knife inside, hide it inside his garments with edim, so that they shouldn't suspect that he's carrying something else. V'oid Omar Rabbi Eliezer, and moreover, Rabbi Eliezer said, Karsim eitzim, lasois pechomim, lasois barzel. He states over here that if a person doesn't even have a milah knife, he can go ahead and cut wood, which would be the malach of ketzira on Shabbos. He can take that wood and then make a fire, the malach of havara on Shabbos. He can then go ahead and mechabe the fire to make pechomim, to make coals on Shabbos. He can then take a piece of metal and put it inside to then cause it to cook mevashel on Shabbos. And finally, he'll then make an implement to make a knife for the milah, which is a malach of maki bepatish. All of this, Rabbi Eliezer is matir, because these are not only machshirim, these are machshir shel machshirei hamilah, and that's also permissible according to the sheet of Rabbi Eliezer. Klal Omer Rabbi Akiva argues, and he says the following principle: Kol malacha she'efshar la'asoisa be'erev Shabbos eina doiche es haShabbos. If a malacha can be done before Shabbos, then it's not doiche Shabbos even for milah. Umila she'efshar la'asoisa be'erev Shabbos doiche es haShabbos. Whereas the bris milah itself on the 8th day, which can only be done on Shabbos if it's that 8th day, only that is permissible to then do a malach of Kabbalah, Netilas Neshama, for the bris milah itself. But all of the other things, including the machshirim, not only the machshirim, but even the machshirim that Rabbi Eliezer had mentioned, to bring a knife through the Reshus Harabim and be over in malacha deraisa, that's not permissible, says Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara asks the following question on the words of Rabbi Eliezer, Iboy lohu. Taima de Rabbi Eliezer mishum chavivi chibuve mitzvah, or dilma mishum chashada. Is the reason why Rabbi Eliezer said that when a person carries a knife through the Reshus Harabim, he does it so that the knife will be exposed? Is that because to show his love for the mitzvah of milah, to show that despite that it's Shabbos, and we're very careful not to mechal the Shabbos, but for the mitzvah of milah we'll mechal the Shabbos? Or is it because of a chashad, that he wants nobody to suspect him, thereby he carries it megula, exposed? Ask the Gemara, Lamai nafka mina. Answers the Gemara, La'asuye mechuse al pi edim, that you can go ahead and put it hiddenly with edim. In other words, just like when there's a shas hasakana in the Sefer, the Mishnah had stated that one has to then put it, mechase it with edim. So then even when there's not a shas hasakana, then one would also would be able to then mechuse it with edim. Iamris mishum chibuve mitzvah. If you want to say it's for mechuve mitzvah because of a love for the mitzvah, then megula im mechuse lo dafka megula and not mechusa. However, Eliyamris mishum chashada, then afilu mechusa shapir dami. Then even mechusa to mechase the Mila knife underneath, with Eidim, of course, being aware that that's going to be a knife that he's carrying, then that's also permissible. That's something that's fine to do. What is the din? What does Rabbi Eliezer come to say here? Itmar, the Gemara brings a statement, Amar Rabbi Alevi, Loi Amar Rabbi Eliezer, Ela lechibuve mitzvah. Why does a person have to carry this knife, megula, exposed on Shabbos, on the 8th day of the Milah, to then express and to show his love for the mitzvah? That even though, again, Chil Shabbos is so chamur, but in light of the mitzvah of Milah, we're able to be mechalel the Shabbos. Tani Nami Hach, the Gemara brings a brisa to this effect as well. Mevio megula ve'ein mevio mechusa. Div Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer himself says befurash that the Rishon Zedavka bring megula and not mechusa. Omer Rav Ashi masnisa nami deka. You can medayik this from the Mishnah itself. Diktani states ubeshas hasakana mechasehu al pi edim. The fact that it says you shall hide it in a state of sakana, then it means dafka in a state of sakana. B'sakanain, shelo b'sakana loy. Otherwise, it should be megula. Shma mina mishum chibuve mitzvah. Shma mina. Obviously, the reason is he wants to do megula in order to then show his chibu for the mitzvah. Tane idach. The Gemara now brings another brayso in regards to bris milah. Mevio megula ve'ein megvio mechusa. Di Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says, as we quoted before, that one shall bring the knife megula exposed and not mechusa, not hidden, not covered up. Rabbi Yehuda Oimer mishum Rabbi Eliezer, he states in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, Noihagin hoyu b'shas hasakana shahoyu mevim mechusa al pi edim, that in the time of sakana they were noiheg to mechase, to cover the milah knife in public because it was dangerous. So long as it was al pi edim, the pi edim would then show to know that this is what he's doing. It shouldn't be suspected that he's carrying something else. Iboilil Gemara now asks on this Eidim, this that it says that he needs to have Eidim to see that he has a knife that is what he's carrying mechuse. So what are we referring to? Eidim the kamar iu v'chad oidilma hu v'trei. Is it referring to he, the one who's carrying, as well as one other person? Those are the Eidim that we're referring to in this Mishnah and this brisa, or are we referring to that it's two other people other than the one who is carrying it? Toshma, let's bring a proof. It says in a place of sakana, our Mishnah stated, right, that a person should then mechase al pi edim. That's what it says over here in the brisa as well. Iamris bishlama Huvetrei Shapir. If you want to tell me that it's him and two others, then it makes very good sense, very well, why the Mishnah stated Eidim. It fits very well. Eli Amris Huvechad, my Eidim. But if it's referring to he himself together with one other person, then why mention as Eidim? He's not an aid because he's Nogeh B'Dover. He's one of the people. He's involved in the Maisa of carrying. Answers the Gemara, Shiru'uyin lohoy b'mokum acher. It refers to it as Eidim because he would be viable to give Eidis to something else. So here all you need is a Gilui Milsa with one other person to then know, to then show that he indeed is the one that's carrying it, that is Mechusi, is carrying a knife for the Milah. You don't need two Eidim to testify as if you're a Dinei Nefesh, a Dinei Mamanois. So therefore over here, we could indeed be referring to one person as well as he himself. The Gemara now quotes the Mishnah, V'oid Omar Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer said, even machshirei shel machshirim shel mitzvah, milah. Ton Rabbanon, b'mekoymoi shel Rabbi Eliezer. In his place, the Brisa says, Hoyu karsin eitzim lasers, pecholim lasers, barzel b'shabbos. States over here, like we saw in the Mishnah, that Rabbi Eliezer, he permitted one to even make a knife on Shabbos, which would require several malachos deraisa. Rabbi Yosi Hagalili, the Brisa goes on to say, in the place of Rabbi Yosi Hagalili, Hoyu oichlin basar oif bechalav. They would be noyag to eat basar oif, chicken, together with chalav. Levi ikloy lebe Yosef. Levi went to visit the house of Yosef. Rishba krevu lei Reisha de Tavosa Bechalova. The one who traps birds, he then served the head of a peacock together with milk to his guest, Levi. Levi did not eat. Ki also came to Rebbe. When Levi came before Rebbe Yehuda Nasi, Omar Lehi said to him, Amai lo tashamtinu. Why don't you put him in excommunication? After all, serving poultry with milk. Omar Lehi, Rebbe responded to Levi, Asrei Rebbe Yehuda ben Beseira Hava. That's because Rav Yosef lived in the area of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Va'amina, and I said to myself, Dilma darash lehuk Rabbi Yosef Galili. Maybe Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira darshans, he expounds just like the shita of Rabbi Yosef Galili did. This nan, it states in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yosef Galili oimer ne'emar. It says in the pasuk. I'll read the entire pasuk. Lo soichlu kol nevela. You shall not eat any dead carcass that was not done shchita with. We're talking about even a kosher animal. Lager asher bisharecha titnenu. Give it to the ger who is referring to a Gentile that is shomer the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach and lives in Eretz Yisrael. You can give him the nevela to eat. He can eat it. V'achla, and he can eat it. Oymachar lenachri, or he can sell it to a Gentile. Ki am kadosh ata laHashem, because you are a holy nation. Elokecha lo sevashel gedi b'chalev imoy. And the rest of the pasuk continues and says, you shall not cook a kid in its mother's milk. Says the Gemara now, this now, Rabbi Yossi Haglili Oimer. Ne'emar, it states in the pasuk that we just quoted, lo soichlu kol nevela, you shall not eat any dead carcass of a kosher animal. V'ne'emar, it says, lo sevashel gedi b'chalev imoy. You shall not cook the gedi in its mother's milk. Esha oser mishum nevela, oser levasha b'chalav. That which is oser because of nevela, so you cannot go ahead and eat that with chalav either. We learn both things, one from the next. Oisha oser mishum nevela yachal. I might think who oser levasha b'chalav, since an oif you also cannot eat when it's just a carcass without the shechita. So therefore, I might think you'd also not eat the oif together with milk. Tamularma bechalav imoy, with the mother's milk. Yatsa oif she'ein loy chalav imoy, chalav aim, to exclude the oif that does not have the milk of its mother. That's the drush of it, Rabbi Yossi HaGalili, and therefore Rabbi Yosef served his guest Levi oif together with milk. Rabbi Yitzchak said, Ir achas haisa be'eretz Yisrael shahayu oisin k'Rabbi Eliezer v'hayu meisim bizmanon. This was before the halacha was paskin like Rabbi Akiva, and it states over here in regards to then bris milah on Shabbos, where Rabbi Eliezer was mekil and he was matir machshirei bris milah. Then it says that in the locale where they were noheg like Rabbi Eliezer, then they died bizmanom in their appropriate time. In other words, they didn't die prematurely because they followed what Rabbi Eliezer said. They're listening to the Chachamim. And not only that, Ela shepom achaz gozr malchus harisho shmad al Yisrael al hamila. The Romans, they were gozer shmad on Klal Yisrael, and they said that if a person does bris milah, then chalila v'chas he'll be chayiv misa. Ve'al oisa ha'ir lo gozra. And on that city, they were not goyzer. So you see this chus of the Emunas Chacham, even though it was Shabbos, one could be mesupek, should he go ahead and do a bris milah even with the machshirei bris milah. And since they followed the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer closely, and they even were able to then do machshirei mitzvah and mechalo Shabbos, because that's the shita of Rabbi Eliezer held, therefore they were zoichet to then die in the right time, and not to have the gezerah of the malchus of roim, of the malchus harisho of shmad on them. The Gemara now brings the following brayse Tanya. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Oimer kol mitzvah shekiblu aleim besimcha kegon mila dichsiv sas anochi alay mimosecha kemotzei shalorov. As the pasuk says, I rejoice. David HaMelech states in Tehillim, on your imrosecha, your singular word, referring to the mitzvah, the first mitzvah that's brought in Parshas Lech Lecha, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Avram Avinu to mal himself, and also to then give bris milah to Yitzchak on his 8th day. Then it says, Adain oisin osa b'simcha. Since they did that mitzvah bris milah b'simcha, then they continue to do so b'simcha. They call mitzvah shekibla aleim b'kitata, and any mitzvah that they did b'kitata, with fighting, with bickery, kigon arayos, when they were told they couldn't marry certain types of relationships, certain family members. Dirsi vayishma Moshe es ha'am b'soicha deloy ramu, but sorry, vayishma Moshe es ha'am boichel mishpachoisov al iske mishpachoisov, referring to the prohibition against marrying certain relatives. Adayin oise b'ktata, then still marriages also has kitata, also has some strife when a person gets married. There's no such things like ksuva being written without some sort of dispute that has monetary issues in writing the ksuva and the obligations that are henceforth. Here we see over here, when it comes to bris milah, that was done b'simcha, therefore they continue to do the milah with simcha. What is this proof that we brought? Based on the pasuk that David HaMelech stated, Sas anochi al im rosecha. Take a look at Rashi, Dibra Maschil, Sas anochi al im rosecha, amira yechida. This is a singular amira, singular word, shekodma lishar amiros, which preceded all other commands by Hashem. Vihi mila sheyisrael oisim v'sosim aleha. This is the bris milah that Klal Yisrael is rejoicing over. The kol shar mitzvos einon mochichos kol shah. All the other mitzvahs are not all of the time. You have mitzvahs that are performed sometimes, but not other times. Kigon tefillin. Tefillin is only during the day. Umezuzah, and mezuzah only if you have a house. V'tzitz is only if you're wearing a beged that's four-cornered. The einon kishuhu v'sadeh. There's no mitzvah of mezuzah when you're in the field, when you don't have a house. The arum, there's no mitzvah of tefillin when you're arum. There's no mitzvah of tzitzis when a person's arum. The beis hamerchatz. Aval zu made aleim la'olam. But the bris milah is eidus, that they're a evid to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mitzvah this mitzvah of bris milah. Kidarminim b'menachos, like it states there in the Gemara, b'David shero atzmoi b'beis hamerchatz. V'tzar, David HaMelech, he realized that he was in a beis hamerchatz, he's now naked, and doesn't have any mitzvahs. He doesn't have his tefillin, doesn't have his tzitzis. Omar, he said, Oili, shani orum mikol mitzvah. Woe is to me, because now I'm naked from mitzvahs. Kivan shenistakel b'milah nisyashva daitoi. Once he looked down, he realized that he has bris milah, then he was left at ease. So therefore, this is the expression of Sos Anochi al Imrei Secha, referring to the mitzvah of bris milah. Says the Gemara weiter, Tanya Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Kol mitzvah shemasru Yisrael atzmon alel lemisa b'shas hashmad kigon avodah zara umila. All of the mitzvahs that Klal Yisrael were prepared to give themselves to death when there's shas hashmad, like avodah zara and like bris milah, adayin hi muchzeches biyadam. This is still mitzvahs that are strong in their hands. V'chol mitzvah shelo yimasu Yisrael atzmon alel lemisa b'shas hashmad kigon tefillin. Other mitzvahs they were not giving themselves over for misa b'shas hashmad, like tefillin. Adayin hu merupa biyadam. So too they are weakened. They're weak in their hands even today. The Omar Rabbi Yonai, the Gemara states, for Rabbi Yonai, tefillin tzrichin guf naki. He says tefillin requires a guf naki, ki alisha ben bal knafayim. It requires a guf naki like Alisha bal knafayim, who had a guf naki. He had a guf naki, aleph, and he also was somebody who was moiser nefesh. He was prepared to give up his life for the mitzvah of tefillin. Ma'hi, the Gemara explains, Omar Abai shelo yafiach bohem. The tefillin require a mind that's naki, that a person should not have improper thoughts while wearing the tefillin, and should also have a guf naki. And Abai explains, shelo yafiach bohem, you should not be mafiach, shouldn't pass gas while wearing the tefillin. Then it shouldn't be a bizayon to the tefillin. Rav Amar shelo yishan bohem. Rav says he shouldn't fall asleep with them, because that will also cause him to be yafiach, perhaps in his sleep. So Klal Yisrael, since this halacha was taught, this was something that was unique to Elisha ben Kanfayim. But otherwise, people were not as careful. And where do we see that Elisha Bar Knafayim was indeed somebody who was moiser nefesh for the tefillin? Gemara explains. Why was he called by this title of Elisha Bar Knafayim, the one who has wings? Shepom achaz gozra malchus harisho shmad al Yisrael. When the Roman Empire were gozer shmad al Yisrael, shekol hem iniach tefillin al roishoy yikaru es moichoy. Whoever wears tefillin on his head, they will cut open his head. They'll break open his head. And nonetheless, Elisha, he wears tefillin shal roish anyways. V'yatza l'shuk, and he went out to the marketplace with his tefillin on his head. V'ra'o kazdor echad, one of the Roman officials saw that he was wearing tefillin. Ratz milafonov, v'ratz acharov. Elisha ran away from him, and this officer ran after him. Kevan shegiya etzloi, when he then finally caught up to him, Natlon miroishe va'achsan biyadai. Elisha, he took off the tefillin shel rosh and he put it in his hand. Omar lei mai biyadcha. The officer said to Elisha, "What's in your hand?" Omar loi kanfe yoina. He says, it's the feathers, it's the wings of a yona bird. Poshet es yadav v'nimtzu ba kanfe yoina. Indeed, he opened up his hand, and what did he find? He found the feathers, he found the wings of a yona bird. Lefikach hayukarino Baal Knafayim. Therefore, he's called Elisha Baal Knafayim because of the nace that took place when he was running away from the officer. Maishno kanfe yoina. Ask the Gemara, what's unique that he said it's a kanfe yoina? It's the feathers of the yona bird that's in my hands. Why did he mention that? Why didn't he just say feathers? What did he say? Specifically, kanfe yoina. Answers the Gemara to explain Mishum the dam yokneses Yisrael liyoina. Klal Yisrael are compared to the yona bird, the dove. Shenemar says in the pasuk, kanfe yoina nechba. The wings, the feathers of the yona bird, they're coated, they're nechba bakesif with silver. Ve'evroisea birak chorutz, and the wings are brilliant with they're brilliant with gold, and therefore Klal Yisrael are also compared to this bird, just like the yona bird are covered with silver and gold. It's a reference to Klal Yisrael who are covered with their mitzvahs of mitzvahs and their Torah learning. Ma yoinazu kanofois maginois alel, and just as the kanfe yoina is what protects the yona when there's somebody who wants to attack it, either a person or another bird. So the yona, instead of pecking with its beak to then fend off the offender, what he does is he fights with his feathers, or he runs away, meaning he flies away with his feathers, with his wings. Af Yisrael mitzvahs maginos alim. So too, Klal Yisrael, who are protected with their mitzvahs and their Torah, they are also like the dove bird, who the knafayim is what that protects the Klal Yisrael.